بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهله وصحبه وسلم اللهم يرزقنا حسن النية. Start with the name of Allah, Ar-Rahman, the merciful to the believers and the non-believers in this life, and the merciful to the believers exclusively in the hereafter. I send the salat upon the Prophet, asking Allah to raise his rank and protect his nation from that which he fears for it. And we praise Allah, and we ask Allah to give us the good intentions. Okay, to proceed. So, last time we were in the chapter of convictions, and we left off on what the belief in his books that he revealed to some of his prophets. That's the last one we covered. So now we're on the belief in his messengers, i.e. his prophets, all of whom he sent. So the difference between a messenger and a prophet is that the messenger is sent with a new revelation. And the first of the messengers is who?
The what?
Who were the first of the messengers?
Adam alayhi salam.
Sah. And the last of the messengers is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the messenger comes with a sharia that's different than the messenger before him. Or in the case of Adam, since there was no messenger before him, he came with the first sharia, the first law. The prophet does not come with a new sharia, but he is sent and he's ordered to convey people to follow this sharia. And so an example of a prophet that was sent, that was not a messenger, is Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. He was sent with the Zabur, but the Zabur did not have new laws. Okay? And as we mentioned, there were only 104 books sent. So, and according to a very strong, i.e. is regarded as authentic by some of the scholars, but there's a difference of opinion over that, there were 124,000 prophets sent, and 313 of them were messengers. This was regarded as Sahih by Imam al-Hakim, and he narrated this hadith that mentioned this in his book Al-Mustadrak. But there's a difference of opinion on the authenticity of this hadith. So it's safer to say that there were messengers and prophets, and we don't know their exact number. Okay? But, so all the prophets and messengers were sent to convey the message of La ilaha illallah, because it came from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, that he said that the best thing that all the messengers were sent with was La ilaha illallah. This means that all of the prophets and the messengers were on the same creed. In another hadith, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam likened the prophets to paternal brothers, meaning that they came with the same creed, but they had different sharia. Okay? And we get more into prophets and messengers as we get further along. It says the belief in the last day on which the slaves will be judged. So that's the fifth one. The fifth of the greatest matters of Iman, faith. So we believe in the last day, okay, and it has various names mentioned throughout the Quran. Yawm al-Qiyamah, Yawm al-Din, and others. So we believe that certain matters pertaining to that day, and we're going to cover that as we go more extensively in the book. And it says the belief in the destiny, meaning the predestination of Allah. It is believing firmly in the heart that everything that takes place in this world, whether a mass physical entity, when we say mass physical entity, we mean like an object, and this object can be uh, something that is palpable or impalpable. You know what a palpable object is versus an impalpable object? The palpable object is something like you could grasp with your hand. Okay? So when we say object, we mean something that occupies a space, like it has a length, a width, and a depth. Okay? And another one of the definitions is that it is composed of two or more um, indivisible pieces. Okay? When we say indivisible pieces, in Arabic is al-jawhar al-fard. This is the smallest thing that does not accept to be divided. Okay? So there are palpable bodies and there are impalpable bodies. Okay? So like the ruh, you know what the ruh is?
No.
It's the spirit. The ruh is an impalpable body that occupies our body, whereas we have life. So, and also another example of an impalpable body is the wind. Can you grab the wind? Okay. And angels and jinn, they have impalpable bodies. So they occupy some type of space, but we can't grab them. Usually we can't see them neither. And so it says whether a mass, meaning a body, something that occupies a space, or a deed, an action. Okay? So we believe firmly in our heart that everything that takes place in this world, that means every occurrence, everything that happens, the birth, the death, the movement, the stillness, all of this, okay? Any change from one situation to another, be it a mass or a deed, okay, is by the destiny and management of Allah, whether that deed were good or bad. So that means that Allah created all of the deeds, whether they're good or bad. All of that takes place by the knowledge of Allah, His will, and His power. Okay? So every creation takes place by the knowledge, will, and power of Allah. But notice when we say will, when we say will, we are not including the order. Will and order are two different matters. And we will talk about that further into the text, bi-idhnillah. So now we're on the meaning of La ilaha illallah. And we should definitely cover that. And we'll see how much further than that we go. It says the meaning of La ilaha illallah. No one is God except Allah. Is that no one has the power to create, i.e., to bring from non-existence into existence except Allah. You remember who I told you said that? Okay, the text says, as the Imam of Ahl Sunnah, Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari, radiyallahu anhu, explained this honorable statement. So Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari said, the meaning of La ilaha illallah means that no one has the power to create, i.e., bring from non-existence into the state of existence except Allah. Okay? So every creation is by the creating of Allah. We don't create anything. We manipulate creations. We may invent things, per se. And we don't use the term creation, like creating, I should say, for other than Allah. Now, sometimes people use the term creation in English for other than Allah, but they don't mean creating the way we mean creating. And it's safer for us, because I'm not an expert in the English language, but it's safer for us to reserve that word, creating, for Allah. So, like on a computer, it may say create a file, okay? But if I want to tell somebody to create a file, I would say make a file rather than say create a file, just to be safe, okay? Because you have to look into the context of the originality of the English language to determine if that's really permissible to say. So the safest route is to use other words where they use that. An exclusion of that would be recreate, because recreate, even though it seems to be relative to the word, it doesn't mean the same thing. So recreation, you know what recreation is? Huh? Ways. Do you know what recreation is?
No.
Okay, recreation is like when you go outside to play. That's recreation. Okay, so that you can use that as is. But using the term for create for other than Allah, you should abstain from that. But don't judge someone that uses that for other than Allah, like that they blasphemed or something like that. Rather, you could advise them to use other words. That'll be the safest way. Unless you learn otherwise by mastering the English language. So it goes on. So all that is in the skies and above them, what is in the earth and below it, what is between the skies and the earth, no one other than Allah created them. No one other than Allah brought them from non-existence into existence. May He be glorified. Whether it were an entity or a deed, whether it were a mass or a body, or an attribute, motion or stillness, a thought without will, spontaneous. So you ever get random thoughts that you don't know where it came from?
Mm-hmm.
Saying that's a creation of Allah. Or you have deep thought, because it has here, or contemplation, intentional, active, or management. And this dictates that no one deserves to be worshipped except Allah. That is, no one deserves the extent of humility except Allah. So the meaning of worship, when we say we worship Allah, is that we give the total humility. We totally humiliate ourselves or humble ourselves to Allah. That is reserved for only Allah. Okay? It doesn't mean what some people say sometimes. Okay, so some people try to say if you call someone other than Allah, if they're not present, that you've worshipped that person. That's not true. I don't know how they use phones, because the person's not present when you call them other. They're somewhere else usually. Like you usually don't call a person in the same room with you on the phone. Or they say that they're not alive or present. Some of them put this along there, right? So what do they say about the person that goes and speaks to the grave? They call us quburiyun, grave worshippers. This is a false thing. So what did they say about Fatima alayhi salam? When she went to the grave of her father and spoke, they say that she blasphemed? This is an ugly statement. Fatima is the master amongst the women of paradise. She's one of the masters of the women of paradise. Like the lady of paradise. It's like she's a master amongst them. She's one of the top ranking women of paradise. Alayhi salatu wassalam. It says, He created the world in its entirety, the upper and lower part, the arsh and the kursi. So, the arsh is the biggest creation of Allah. Some people translate it as the throne, and some people prefer not to translate it at all. We just say it's a kursi, it's an arsh. It's something that's very huge. It has 4 pillars, and it's carried by 4 large angels. And on the day of resurrection, Yom Kiyama, it will be carried by 8. It is very big. And the kursi is also very big. And the arsh is also the ceiling of paradise. You hear me? Okay, so it's the ceiling of paradise, but it extends beyond paradise. So it's not like covering paradise and then it's over with. No, it extends beyond paradise. And in the hadith, it came about the arsh and the kursi. It said that, like, if all the heavens is like a ring, like this ring on my finger, you see the ring on my finger? Always. See the ring on my finger? Mm-hmm. Like all of the heavens, so that's all that we see, including the earth and everything, is like a ring. thrown in the desert, like a vast land. You know how big a desert is, right? It's huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of the heavens and stuff is like a ring thrown in the desert in comparison to in size to the kursi. And the kursi is also like a ring thrown in the desert in comparison to the arsh. So these are mammoth creations because, even according to the scientists, they find that the universe is vast, right? They find the universe is big. So as big as this universe is, according to what they've observed, in comparison to the kursi, it's like a ring thrown in the desert. And that kursi in itself is like a ring thrown in the desert in comparison to the arsh. So these both of these are very huge creations, and Allah maintains them. Go get some water. We have 16. Okay, so these, all of these are created by Allah, and it was mentioned that the arsh was created as an indication of the power of Allah. Okay, because if the arsh was not maintained, it would crush us. Okay, and the angels are the ones who see the arsh. So they see this arsh, and this is an indication to them of the power of Allah. Okay. And it says the skies and the earth. It says no speck moves except by his will, and not a leaf falls except that he knows about it. And there is neither a grain in the darkness of earth, nor anything moist or dry, except that it is inscribed in a clear book. So these are statements that clarify that Allah knows everything and He's in control of everything. Okay? He creates everything. And He documented things in this book, the guarded tablet. It says, He encompassed everything with His knowledge, and He knows the count of all things. He is alive, that's al-hay, and He is qayyum. Okay, so this part is taken from Ayatul Kursi. When we say, هو حي قيوم لا تأخذه السنة. Okay, it says He is alive and He is qayyum, and He is not taken by somnolence or sleep. Okay, so al-hay is life. The life of Allah is unlike our lives. Our lives, we have a beginning, correct? And our lives have an end. Our lives are in need. We need the soul that's in our body. We need flesh, bones. We need sustenance. We need air, water. Okay, we need shelter. We need various things, conditions in order to live. And our life is still limited. But Allah's life is not like that. Whatever you imagine in your mind, right, Allah is absolutely unlike that. And then when we get into Qayyum, Al-Qayyum, the ulama mentioned different statements about the meaning of Al-Qayyum. One of the meanings is that He is eternal. One of the meanings is that He exists independently. Everything is in need of Him. Another meaning is that He is the manager of everything, that He manages everything. So some of the creations manage things, but their management is under the management of Allah. In reality, Allah manages everything. Okay? And they have other statements pertaining to the meaning of Al-Qayyum, the one with confirmed existence. Okay? And furthermore, it says He is not taken by somnolence or sleep. This means it is invalid for somnolence. What is somnolence? Somnolence is probably what you're fighting. Anywhere you are like halfway asleep. Okay? Somnolence is like when the person, he's like, his eyes are closed, he can hear stuff around him, and he's not fully asleep. You understand? Huh?
You say yes.
Okay? And sleep, sleep. When you go to sleep, you don't hear nothing. You're in another world. Sometimes you have dreams. Okay? So Allah is not subject to either one of those. That's what the verse means when we say he's not overtaken by them. Like, that's invalid to attribute to Allah. Okay? Because he's not a creation. The creation gets tired and become overwhelmed by somnolence or sleep. Not Allah Azza wa Jal. He does whatever he wills, and he has power over whatever he willed. Okay? So Allah is not compelled to do anything. You know what compelled means?
Forced.
Yep. Okay. So Allah is free from being forced to do anything, and he does whatever he wills. And he has power over whatever he willed. When we say he has power over whatever he willed, this means his power and his will are over the creations. Okay? When we get into a bigger book, we might explain some more about it. But everything he created, he has absolute power and will over. It can't do nothing against his will, and it can't overcome his power. He brings it into existence. Okay, so the will is specifying the creations with their various attributes. Okay, one thing over the next. So if Allah willed, you could be taller, or you could be lighter, or you could be shorter, or you could be darker. Okay, all of your various specifications is by the will of Allah. The way that you are is specified by the will of Allah. Okay, and your actual coming into existence is by the power of Allah. And when we go out of existence, that's by the power of Allah. So the power of Allah brings things into existence and takes them out of existence. And the will of Allah specifies their situations over another possibility. It says, to him belongs the dominion and he needs none. So this means Allah has absolute control, authority, and power over everything, and he is not in need of anything. To him belong the glory and everlastingness. When we say glory, we're talking about the transcendence, i.e. that he is free of deficiencies. Okay? He is clear of deficiencies. He's clear of the attributes of the creations. And he is and everlastingness means that he does not cease to exist, nor does his dominion and so forth like that. And to him belong the ruling and commanding. So he has the right to rule with whatever he wills to rule and command whatever he commands. And he has the names of perfection. So all of the names of Allah indicate his perfection. Always?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all of the names of Allah indicate his perfection. It indicates that he is free from imperfection. Okay? And in the hadith it came that he has 99 names that if someone endeavors to preserve them, meaning he understands them and learns them, then this is a good matter for him. It says, there is no preventer to what he decreed, and no deflector to what he has given. So no one can prevent what he decreed. So if Allah willed for a good thing to come to you, no one can prevent it. And if Allah willed for a bad thing to come to you, no one can prevent it. And it says no deflector to what he has given. That's another way of saying it. He does in his dominion whatever he wills, and he rules his creation with whatever he wills. He does not hope for reward or does not fear punishment. There is no right on him that is binding, and no one exercises rule over him. So when we say he does not hope for reward, he's not motivated. Okay? Like when we do things, we have a motivation, right? So he's not motivated. He's not under motivation. He doesn't hope for reward. He's the one who gives rewards. He's not the one that receives rewards. He's not subject to receiving rewards. And, mashallah. And he does not fear punishment. It's impossible for him to be punished. He's al-Aziz. Yani, it says there's no right on him that is binding. Every good that Allah gives us is from His endowment, from His generosity. Okay? Allah is not obligated to do anything for us. If we worshiped Allah all of our lives non-stop, if He willed to cast us in hellfire, it's His right. Now, we say this, and this came in the Ahadith, but it is also known, it came in the Quran and Hadith, that Allah will reward us if we are people who maintain Iman. But we understand that that is from the endowment of Allah. It's not a right on us. It's an endowment of Allah. That's what's up. So out of His generosity, He will reward us. And this is because He is truthful in His word. It's impossible that He will be a liar, because lying is a deficiency, and Allah does not lie. He's not subject of deficiencies. But there's no obligation on Allah. Allah is clear of obligations. That's what one must understand. It says, there's no right on him that is binding, and no one exercises rule over him. Every endowment from him is generosity, and every punishment from him is just. He's not questioned about what he does, rather they will be questioned. Okay, so when we say that Allah is not questioned about what He does, we mean that He is not someone that has to answer questions for what He does. There's no one with authority over Him. However, sometimes people may question a wisdom of something, and this is not haram long as it's done in the proper format. Okay? So, but not all answers are known to us at the same time. Okay, so if you question me about a ruling that I don't know, and I'm not even a scholar, I'm going to make it very clear I don't know. That doesn't mean I don't do it because I don't know the answer. Okay, like why do we pray 5 times a day? Allah ordered us to do so. What is the wisdom behind it? Amongst the wisdom is it's a reminder to us that, and it helps prevent us from sinning. But why not 6 times or 7 times being obligated? Allah didn't obligate that. Why didn't Allah obligate that? Allah in His divine wisdom chose not to obligate that. He chose to obligate what He willed. What is the wisdom behind that? We're not going to go into all of that. At some point in time, you got to stop questioning and submit. It says, He existed before the creation. He has no before and no after, no above and no below, no right and no left, no front and no back. It is not said, when was He, or where was He, or how is He. He existed and there was no place. He created the creations and willed for the existence of time. He is not bound by time, and He is not specified with place. His management of one matter does not distract Him from another. He is not specified in the mind. He is not envisioned in itself, and He is not given a manner of being in the mind. He is not grasped with delusions or thoughts. There is nothing whatsoever like Him, and He is the one who sees and hears. So when we say He existed before the creation, this includes time, okay? There was no beginning to the existence of Allah. He's eternal without a beginning. It says He has no before and no after, no above and no below, no right or no left, and no front and no back. This means that He is not in a direction. This means that He is not in a location, because that which has an above or below is located somewhere. That which has a right and a left is located somewhere. That which has a front and a back is located somewhere. And this also means that He is not a body, because the bodies are creations, as we said earlier. It said, it is not said when was he, because when replies being located in a time. When was he? The future, the past, right? Okay. Or where was he? That implies being located in a place. And or how is he? That implies being in a modality, in a way, in a manner of being. He existed and there was no place. So, by him existing when there was no place, when he created the creation, i.e., the place, he did not change and enter his creation. He exists as he was. He's not bound by time, and he is not specified with place. His management of one matter does not distract him from another. Like us, we can only do so many things at a time. You like to multitask, but still, no matter how much multitasking you like to do, you're limited in your multitasking. It says he is not specified in the mind because the mind cannot encompass the reality of Allah. He is not envisioned in the self. That's another way of saying it. And he is not given a manner of being in the mind. He is not grasped with delusions or thoughts. There's nothing whatsoever like him. He is the one who hears and sees. So that's from Laysa kamithlihi shay wa huwa as-sami'ul basir, from the Quran. So that verse, which means there's nothing whatsoever like him, and he is the one who hears and sees, it negates similarity to Allah, but it confirms that Allah has attributes. And by negating the similarity of Allah, yet confirming attributes, it's saying that those attributes are unlike the attributes of the creations, even though they have similar terms. So Allah hears and sees, but his hearing and seeing is not like the hearing and the seeing of the creation. Our hearing is limited. Our hearing is in need of an instrument. Our hearing has a beginning and an end. Our hearing is created. Same with our sight. All of these matters are contingent upon other things, and thus they are not like the hearing and seeing of Allah Azza wa Jal. And we'll end there, bi-idhni Allah. We'll end there, bi-idhni Allah. And we'll close out.